Salt affects people differently and may not lead to adverse health effects for everyone. Salt is an important part of the diet and its components play essential roles in your body. However, for some people, too much salt may be associated with conditions like an increased risk of stomach cancer and high blood pressure. In fact, the most recent dietary guidelines for Americans recommend limiting sodium intake to below 2,300 milligrams daily. Keep in mind that salt is only about 40% sodium, so this amount is equal to about 1 teaspoon or 6 grams. This video will take a deeper look at the research to determine whether or not salt is actually bad for you. Salt plays an important role in the body. Salt, also known as sodium chloride, is a compound made up of about 40% sodium and 60% chloride, two minerals that play an important role in health. Concentrations of sodium are carefully regulated by the body, and fluctuations lead to negative side effects. Sodium is involved in muscle contractions, and losses through sweat or fluid can contribute to muscle cramps in athletes. It also maintains nerve function and tightly regulates both blood volume and blood pressure. Although both of these minerals are important, research shows that individuals may respond differently to sodium. While some people may not be affected by a high salt diet, others may experience high blood pressure or bloating with increased sodium intake. Those who experience these effects are considered salt sensitive and may need to monitor their sodium intake more carefully than others. High salt intake is associated with stomach cancer. Some evidence shows that increased salt intake could be linked to an increased risk of stomach cancer. This may be because it increases the growth of Helicobacter pylori, a type of bacteria associated with a higher risk of stomach cancer. One study looked at over 1,000 participants and showed that a higher salt intake was associated with a higher risk of stomach cancer. Another large review with 2,068 and 718 participants found that those with a high salt intake had a 68% higher risk of stomach cancer than those with a low salt intake. Reduced salt intake may lower blood pressure. High blood pressure can cause extra strain on the heart and is one of the risk factors for heart disease. Several large studies have shown that a low salt diet may help lower blood pressure, especially in those with high blood pressure. One review with 3,230 participants found that a moderate reduction in salt intake produced a modest decrease in blood pressure. Though it reduced blood pressure in those with both high and normal blood pressure, this effect was greater for those with high blood pressure. Keep in mind that certain individuals may be more sensitive to salt's effects on blood pressure. Those who are salt sensitive are more likely to see a decrease in blood pressure with a low salt diet, while those with normal blood pressure may not see much of an impact. Low salt intake may not reduce the risk of heart disease or death. There is some evidence showing that high salt intake may be associated with an increased risk of certain conditions like stomach cancer or high blood pressure. Despite this, there are several studies showing that a reduced salt diet may not actually decrease the risk of heart disease or death. A large review made up of 7 studies found that salt reduction had no effect on the risk of heart disease or death. Another review with over 7,000 participants showed that reduced salt intake did not affect the risk of death and had only a weak association with the risk of heart disease. However, the effect of salt on the risk of heart disease and death may vary for certain groups. For example, one large study showed that a low salt diet was associated with a reduced risk of death, but only in overweight individuals. Meanwhile, another study actually found that a low salt diet increased the risk of death by 159% in those with heart failure. Clearly, further research is needed to determine how decreasing salt intake may affect different populations. But it is safe to say that reducing salt intake does not automatically decrease the risk of heart disease or death for everyone. Low salt intake can have negative side effects. Although a high salt intake is linked to several conditions, a diet too low in salt can also come with negative side effects. Several studies have shown that reduced salt diets could be linked to increased levels of blood cholesterol and blood triglycerides. These are fatty substances found in the blood that can build up in the arteries and increase the risk of heart disease. A large 2012 study showed that a low-salt diet increased blood cholesterol by 2.5% and blood triglycerides by 7%. Another study also found that a low-salt diet increased bad LDL cholesterol by 4.6% and blood triglycerides by 5.9%. Other researchers found that salt restriction may cause a resistance to insulin, the hormone responsible for transporting sugar from the blood to cells. Insulin resistance causes insulin to work less effectively and leads to higher blood sugar levels as well as an increased risk of diabetes. A low-salt diet can also lead to a condition called hyponatremia or low blood sodium. With hyponatremia, your body holds onto extra water due to low levels of sodium, excess heat, or overhydration, causing symptoms like headaches, fatigue, nausea, and dizziness. How to minimize salt-sensitive symptoms. Whether you want to cut down on salt-related bloating or you need to reduce your blood pressure, there are several simple ways to do it. First of all, reducing your sodium intake may be beneficial for those who experience symptoms with high salt intake. You might think that the easiest way to cut down on sodium is by tossing out the salt shaker altogether, but that's not necessarily the case. The main source of sodium in the diet is actually processed foods, which account for a whopping 77% of sodium found in the average diet. To make the biggest dent in your sodium intake, try swapping processed foods for whole foods. Not only this will reduce sodium intake, but it can also help promote a healthier diet rich in vitamins, minerals, fiber, and essential nutrients. If you need to reduce your sodium even more, cut down on restaurant and fast foods. Opt for low-sodium varieties of canned vegetables and soups, and while you can continue seasoning your foods with salt to add flavor, keep it in moderation. If you've been advised by your doctor to reduce your salt intake, continue to do so. Otherwise, it seems that those who are salt sensitive or have high blood pressure are the most likely to benefit from a low salt diet. For most, sodium intake around the recommended 1 teaspoon per day is ideal. Now, you tell the truth. Do you like salty foods more? Let us know in the comment section below. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for the next videos, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thank you so much for watching.